And right after, we'll get interactive. Stay tuned.
As somebody who has done no other job but the military and was trained to be a leader, I believe that the problem we have is really a problem of leadership. Leadership is our problem. Talking about the Tanzanian president who changed the celebration into providing whatever for the people living in the country there. I have worked and known many leaders across the world, some in history, people like Churchill. I read about him. Churchill was at a school that I attended in Britain, the Royal Military Academy at Sandhurst, one of the biggest schools in the world. But my father was a fisherman, so from Winneba. I went to school because I was lucky to be in education. I wouldn't have had any education at all. I would have been a fisherman. But I protested. My father had no option but to take me to school. God knew where I was going to be when I grew up. I have met many leaders, as I said, people like Indira Gandhi in India. India, one of the heavily populated countries in the world. I saw poverty I've never seen anything before in 1975. But I went to India about a couple of years ago when the college I attended had celebration of their anniversary. And I saw India changing. Not that India has no more problems, it isn't that, but they are moving forward. India was changing. Indira Gandhi, a woman, the Prime Minister of India, came to address the college. It's a very big college of top people in several services, in the military, everywhere else was there. And she came to the college driving a car that any other person drove. It was a Vanguard, a business car, black one, plenty of, everyone was black. And she came with this stupid car like everybody else. She was the Prime Minister of India. The modesty of administration was something you'd be proud of. This was 1975. I went back to India in 2010, anniversary of the college, and the Prime Minister of India driving the same stupid car that Indira Gandhi drove so many years ago. In Ghana, we're driving Land Cruisers. When you are poor, you can't even get Gary to eat. You are driving Land Cruisers. It's a very sad story. I was hideous in 1979 out of all the chaos we had. And the car I was using was always broken down. So I was driving my own car to work, like any other officer in the army. The car is still there. I could have brought it here today. It drives. 47 years old. It's true. I'm not lying to you. I don't lie. But you see, leadership is such an important subject. That's why we are in this mess. I saw Nkrumah in 1951, first time. I was in a boarding school when he came to Winneba. About this time, March 1951. That was 3 years ago. It's my brain working, it's my maths working. Anyway, and when you saw Nkrumah, you saw in him a leader. But the problem Nkrumah had was that he wanted to change Ghana and Africa, and a white man wouldn't have any more control over us. He didn't want that. He had to get rid of Nkrumah. So many attempts on his life. The first one being 1958. I was in school. I had a very late secondary education. I was over 20 years old. Attempt was made to assassinate him, and people were arrested. But Nkrumah never had any peace of mind because he was going to do something that will change the world order, and people didn't want that. He persisted, and they persisted in getting rid of him until 1966 when Nkrumah was overthrown in a military coup d'etat. Unfortunately, Ghana lost its way, and we have not had the chance to come back, on track to build a better Ghana. We've been talking about economic independence, political independence. The two things are very different. Ghana gained political independence to appoint our own leaders, to elect our ministers. We are economically still independent. You're still not dependent, not independent. Because we are not able, we're still going, but if you want to pass a law in Parliament, as we all know, you have to get World Bank or IMF to say, yes, you can do it. That doesn't make you economically independent. And the reason why you're not independent is that our economy is too weak to be able to stand on our feet. I went to school, paid my own school fees, caught crabs, caught fishes at Winneba, packing cocoa, cement to pay my school fees. I didn't want to be dependent on anybody. My mother couldn't anyway. My father couldn't. They were poor. But I had to build myself to become an independent person. Ghanaians, Africans, I feel sad about Africa, you know. Nations like Zaire became independent. The Congo, Belgian Congo, 1960. They still are struggling because of their wealth. They wouldn't have peace. You know, and the people there couldn't come together to guard against their own independence. Nkrumah did his best. Lumumba was there. But the powers that we have to fight are too powerful to overcome. We have to understand that in Ghana here today, that there are forces outside which are very, very powerful. Unless you think out your life properly as a nation, you will not make it. They are too powerful, extremely powerful. You know, once when I look at a nation like as North Korea, I wonder why this young man will pursue military force as opposed to feeding his people. I realize that if you didn't become politically and militarily very strong, no matter what you do, what happened to Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, Nkrumah, to happen to you. So this issue that we have been dealing with about economic and political independence, we are going to be, 67 years tomorrow. What do you have to show for it? What do you have to show for it? 32 years since 1992. We had two parties run Ghana, NPP, NDC. And it's sad. 32 years wasted, totally wasted, nothing to show for it. The poverty levels in Ghana, you know, it makes me weep. Extremely weep. Even I, to eat sometimes, I have to struggle to find the right food to eat. I was in the hospital not long ago, and the food they gave me to eat, I wouldn't give it to my dog or my cat. That was the former chief of defense staff, 2 times chief of defense staff. So you can imagine the ordinary person, what he's going through. We have a battle to fight, a battle to make us economically free. Otherwise, when you want to do something, you have to look on your shoulder and be told that, yes, you can go ahead, or you can't go ahead. Then you are not independent. That's the problem facing us. And the youth of this country, I don't know what's wrong with. I was a young man many years ago, but I don't understand that issue about young people today, of their future. As if the Ghana doesn't belong to them. As if they have no future. They don't care about their future. But the future belongs to them. You know, and it's very sad. After so many years, see Ghana like this, and you wonder what happened to us. You know, why should I, at age getting towards 88, struggle? I came to hospital with a rage, not far from here, in 2009. I saw a picture on television, and that shocked me. Women were giving birth on the floor. No water there. And I saw on TV. So I called the Minister for Health, Dr. Yankee. He's alive. Doctor, I'll meet you at the Ridge Hospital tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. He came there. What I saw was, you know, terrible. We have a problem. They wanted money to buy few pipes to repair the water system there. There was none. So mothers who had delivered were having jerry cans with water to wash. This was in Nkrumah's Ghana. Nkrumah I knew Nkrumah. I worked with him. I was at the Flagstaff House. you know. And at that time, I had my checkbook in my pocket. I always carry it. I called the administrator, the doctor, what's the problem? So we need some 6,000 or something thousand CDs to fix the water system. The minister says, okay, next, I'll get to the office and then get the staff to work on this. I said, doctor, if you know, staff. I went straight to the bank, Barclays Bank. I had about 6,000 CDs in my account. I took out 5,800. Went straight to the hospital and said, take the money and fix the water system. It's not I've done 1,001 of these kinds. This is leadership, practical leadership. So Africa has a problem. What we need are leaders who care. Those we have in parliament today, they are not leaders. They are not. Leaders don't behave like that. Leaders don't go to parliament to buy land cruisers and then ignore the simple needs of their people. These are not leaders. Here, so we have a problem in this country, serious problem. We have a problem in Africa. Luckily for me, I've been able to travel across the world. I've been to where they are fighting Ukraine. I've been to Moscow, 1963, for 6 months. I've been to America, I've been to Canada, been to India, almost everywhere. You know, and I didn't attend a good school, a funny school called Ghana Secondary School, now Woodeba Secondary School. But you see, you don't need to go to Ashimota or Fancy or Pepper College to become who you are. You don't need to. You have to struggle and build yourself up so you can help others to build themselves up. Africa needs to wake up. Our leaders need to wake up because there's too much suffering in this country. I don't like it. We have an election in a few months' time. NDC want power. People say, I won't give it to you. What's going to happen? We might have a war on our hands. And I'm being very frank with you. You know, we don't want that. Youth have to wake up. The youth, the future belongs to you. At my age, going towards 88, I can't go to Agunan Sabah, Konyako, the Rampon, Mori, Winneba, and build school blocks. I can't go to a rally, wake up at 3 o'clock, go to a rally senior high school and move the whole school to a rally from outside, not far from here, behind the cathedral. We need leaders like that to die for Ghana. We don't have them. That is our tragedy. You know, so I hope that the press are here to carry the message to the people. You don't have to fill the room to be heard outside the room. You know. So I know time isn't on my side, but we shall be talking again because this morning I was at Asase Radio, not far from my house, and I gave it to them. You know, I mean, it's terrible what's happened to Ghana. It's sad and terrible. When I go home, I'm going there tomorrow. I have to take Kenke and make sure I got some pepper because they won't give me pepper free. And I'm told by the Kenke sellers now. You know, a lot has changed for the West, and it's ugly. It's not right. Our people should be patriotic. You know, should be. Because the poverty levels are ugly. I was in Makola not long ago. I can't drive there because I'll be driving on human beings on the streets. It choked. You can't drive. And women on the streets, and I don't know whether they have even toilets there to attend to. It's terrible. Then I said to myself, why can't we do something about this? I live not far from the trade fair. I live in La. I don't know a lot of people here. A lot of people should wake up too. The young men should wake up. When they are taking your land and selling your land at the trade fair, you have no job. You look at it sheepishly, looking at them, selling your assets. Do something about this. I call your chiefs and talk to them. The politician will bribe you and get hold of you. You do anything to get power. He doesn't care how you get the power. But how can we sit down? Accra is choked. The commerce sector is choked. Kingsway, ETC, you can't drive there, you can't even walk there. Then we have a land at the trade fair, meant for a trade fair. We have discontinued with it. Instead of developing another market, so that those who live in the eastern part of Accra don't come to compound the problem of, congestion in Macaulay and so on. We are selling it. What kind of crazy people will behave like this? It's not right. And I don't know what kind of human beings we have in Africa here. I live in Europe for a long time. They don't behave like this. But there are good men too in Africa. I know them, plenty of them. So Ghana will change, Africa will change, but it's not without struggle. The youth have to wake up. They have to take charge of the country, because most of us in our 70s, 80s, our days are numbered. But you have to continue with the fight and build a future fit and good enough for you and your children. I've done my bit. We have done our bit. When I look around here in Ghana, where I've been, in India, in Canada, all my colleagues, they are no more. They are no more. We are going. But when we go, my worry is not me going, it's what I leave behind and who to fill the void. So wake up. And until I go, I will fight on. God bless you.
I will humbly and respectfully call our next speaker, Bishop Dr. Samuel Mensah, to have an interaction with us. Bishop, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. It's been an interesting conversation. And thank you, Dr. Spio Gabriel, for putting these ideas with the rest of the organizers together. General, it's always interesting to listen to you, always to challenge our people, challenge the youth that life can be better and we can do something meaningful with our lives. As a matter of fact, 67 years, where are we? And where are we going? Someone said perhaps if we were not coming together, we should go to the church halls and literally pray. And you see, but I'm a strong believer that the problems of Ghana are not spiritual. And for me as a bishop to tell you that even if they should ask us to go and pray, I wouldn't do that. Because the problems of Ghana are not spiritual. The problems of Ghana is common sense. It's just common sense. These are common sense problems that need common sense to solve them. So our problems are not spiritual like the other nations, but it's a common sense leadership that we lack all around and the challenges that we face. Lee Kuan Yew made a statement, and perhaps let me just read a statement he made. A very powerful statement. He said, honest and effective government, public order, personal security, economic and social progress did not come about as a natural course of events, but by deliberate and intentional vision and leadership. Honest and effective government, honest and effective government, public order, personal security, economic and social progress did not come about as a natural course of events, but by intentional and creative vision and leadership. And this was a country that was a third country, and then they moved from a third world to a first world in one generation, 40 years. 40 years, they moved from a developing country to a developed nation. So it can be done. And that is what they have left behind. Imagine you got to Kotoka International Airport and 835 Airbus sitting down at the tarmac. And then about 500 passengers got into the aircraft. You have about 12 air hostess, great captain. Now the captain says, ladies and gentlemen, welcome flight 1957. We are flying from Kotoka International Airport to London Heathrow. And it's about 5.5 hours flight. And we are definitely going to fly through Cote d'Ivoire, Liberia, Mali, to Algeria. There'll be some few turbulence around Algeria. And we'll spend 2 hours to cross the Mediterranean Sea. And by about 6 o'clock in the morning or 5:30, we'll be arriving at Heathrow. However, I'm a very experienced pilot, and I've been flying for the past 32 years. We have a brand new aircraft with great crew, but we don't have a navigational system. I'm going to depend upon my experience and my expertise and fly you for these 5 hours to Heathrow. So welcome on board. Now fasten your seatbelts and we'll be taking off. We will cruise at about 39,000 feet above sea level. Now, let me ask you, if you were a passenger on board, would you fly that aircraft with that captain? No, give me an answer, yes or no? No. Why? Because you are not ready to risk your life with a captain and an aircraft without a navigational system. He wouldn't know where he would be at any point in time mid-air. But though he said he's an experienced pilot, he would naturally crash the aircraft. 450 people would die, no matter what. We have been flying this aircraft called Ghana for 67 years without a navigational system called Vision. Literally, we are not going anywhere. And we have crashed 17 times, have gone to IMF 17 times. We've crashed this aircraft. So question, why do you entrust your life if you will not go to Kotoka International Airport and entrust your life to a captain to fly you to London without a navigational system? Why do you entrust your life to political leaders who have no idea where they are taking the country to? Why would you entrust your life into their hands when they have no clue where they are taking the nation to? I recall in 1992 when we moved from the PNDC rule to the civilian rule, you know, we heard Rollins saying that he was laying the economic foundation for a good takeoff. When after 8 years he handed over to Kufuor, Kufuor said he inherited an empty coffers. So he was laying economic foundation for a takeoff. After 8 years, President Mills came, he said he was laying economic foundation for a takeoff. Now, when John Mahama took over, he said he was laying the foundation for a takeoff. Then Nanado took over, he said he was laying foundation for a takeoff. 32 years, all these leaders have been laying foundation. Guess what? Even if you were building your own house, how many times would you lay a foundation? How many times would you lay a foundation? All these leaders have been laying foundation for a takeoff, and we haven't taken off. The reason why they are laying foundation, there is no blueprint guiding the country. No sense of direction. We are not going anywhere. And one of the wisest men who ever lived, Solomon, said, where there is no vision, the people go through circles. They go through circles. So from one IMF to another IMF, to another IMF, to another IMF, we are just going in circles. Nations that have developed over the years, where we describe them, you know, as these were nations like Singapore, Thailand, you know, South Korea. We were all like them during the days of our independence. But one thing that changed them was a vision. They gave themselves a national vision that took them to the next level and they became a developed nation within 40 years. Why? Because they gave themselves a vision that was driving them. Unfortunately for us, there is nothing driving the country. Someone would say, well, perhaps the NDC at one time came up with a 40-year national development plan. But you see, it was the NDC's dream. So they cut half of the Ghanaians away. Then when Nana Akufo-Addo came, he came with the Ghana Beyond Aid, which was basically the same like the 40-year development plan. But again, that was their own dream, and they did not involve everybody. So as long as it does not take collective ownership, no one is ready to move to go by the dream. Now, these countries, we call them the newly industrialized countries: Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, Turkey, South Africa, South Korea. All these countries moved. They were one time helped by IMF once to take off. Thereafter, they have become a developed nations. We have been helped 17 times. Something is wrong. Something is wrong. It is because there is no sense of leadership driving our country. So the question is, how do we create a vision? How do we get everybody to come on board to support us as a country? I think one of the things we should formally probably do is involve all national stakeholders. Dr. Spiel, Gabriel, you see, it's like bring all political parties together, create what I call, and then number two, bring all political parties together. Number two, bring recognized professional bodies together in the same room, get representatives of TUC, academia, business community, representatives of traditional leaders, representatives of religious leaders. Call that group perhaps, a National Consultative Vision Assembly. Then let them craft a vision of 30 years, 40 years, where we would want to see, how we want to see Ghana in the next 30 years. In the next 40 years, what kind of Ghana do we want to have? What kind of Ghana do we want to build? Now, all these people would be part of it. So once they put it together, just like we crafted the National Constitution, once that is done, then it is no more an MPP document or an NDC document, but it is a Ghana document. It becomes a national vision. Then we put a legal framework that would bind us. So it becomes a legal document. Any government that comes into office, you will go into this national dream of the 30 years, find out which area of the vision do you want to pursue, and then you work towards that. If another government comes, they will decide which other aspect of the vision would they want to pursue. So you see, we are now working towards the document, and we are building from one level to another, and within 30 years, we can get there. We can get there within 30 years. Now, and you see, when they put this document together, you can break them into 10 thematic areas. This is just an example. Number one would be like education. So you break them into 10 thematic areas, education. And in this education, if we now know the next 30 years where we are going, then all the vice chancellors of the various universities and the SHS, schools, including all the head teachers, they will now design programs and courses that will position our children for the next 30 years. So that whatever they are teaching will not be disjointed. Because they know that in the next 30 years, this is where Ghana is going. So we will redefine our courses in the universities to prepare people to meet the need of 30 years from now. Then the second area will be health. The health, for example, is to have one teaching hospital in all the 16 regions. That should not be a difficult thing. One effective teaching hospital. My thinking, my worry is, why should, whenever Joe Biden gets sick, he doesn't go to Canada for medical treatment. He doesn't go to Germany for medical treatment. It's an indictment on our leaders. When they are sick, then they fly outside Ghana for medical treatment. It's a homegrown policy. Take care of your own. So if we build an effective health centers, hospitals, then when our presidents and what have you are even sick, they can be taken care of. The next area you can look at agricultural development. For agricultural development, find out which of the regions are blessed with a particular agri products. Then you focus on. If, for example, the north, it is rice growing, we will focus our energy towards the north, tomatoes and rice growing. Depending upon the regions, then you will identify that which of the regions you will want to probably focus on agricultural development. Then the fourth area will be industrialization. And within industrialization, again, focus on all the regions. So which region, perhaps Ashanti region, will be earmarked for car manufacturing. Maybe the northern region will be earmarked for tomato industries and what have you. Perhaps another eastern region, western region. So you see, when investors then come to Accra, and it's a car manufacturing business, it wouldn't take the minister to fast and pray to decide where they should go. Because we know that based upon our 30-year development plan and national vision, it is within the Ashanti region area that is earmarked for what? Auto mechanical development and industry. So the moment you come to Accra, they will tell you go to Ashanti region. That will also prevent urban, rural urban migration to Accra, because every region will be industrialized. Every region is well capable, and every region will be in good competition to produce something. That can be done. And then the AGI and the various businessmen, it would be very easy for them to plan and dream. They can go back to overseas, partner with their friends, and now they will know that, oh, in the next 20 years, this part of this region is going to be positioned for this company or this industry, what have you. So they will partner friends and plan for it. Are you aware that if we know in the next 30 years what we are going to be, children who will be born today, parents will have an idea what kind of program they will design for their children and what kind of school they have to attend, so that in the next 30 years when they graduate, they know what they will become. If I should ask, I've asked parliamentarians, in the next 15 years, what would Ghana be? MPs have no clue. General, MPs have no clue. I asked ministers of state, in the next 15 years, what would Ghana be? They have no clue. Go to the Jubilee House, ask the president, in the next 15 years, where would Ghana be? President Nana Akufo-Addo has no clue. So it is just like sitting in a bus or in an aircraft and asking your pilot, where are we going? Say, I don't know. Yet I'm going to fly you. Until we have a national vision owned by every one of us, this country called Ghana is not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. You don't need a prophet to tell you. We will just mark time. Nations that have developed were developed based upon vision driving them. 30 years. Go to Dubai. At one time, a desert have become a developed, attractive nation. Why? Because they had a 50-year plan. And 5 years ago, they fulfilled the 40-year plan, and they gave themselves another 20 years. So whenever even you arrive in Dubai, and you take a taxi, the taxi driver can tell you 10 years from now what Dubai would look like. Nobody knows where we are going. The starting point after our independence is to find out where we want to go. The next area is, under the thematic area, will be socio-cultural transformation. Socio-cultural transformation will call for attitudinal change, because we have bad attitude. And this attitudinal change will be driven by two major institutions, the religious institutions and the traditional institutions. They will drive this attitudinal change. All this we are dealing with, the LGBTQ and what have you, all this has to do with attitudinal change. So the religious institution and the traditional institutions, if you give them the next 7, perhaps 10 years, look, I can bring all religious leaders together, including the traditional leaders, and ask them to identify all unproductive cultural practices in our country that hasn't helped us and is not helping us to progress. Put them in the room. Tell them until they identify all those unproductive cultural practices, nobody is leaving that room. Give them 3, 4, 5 days. They should identify. Once they do that, now they should go back. How do we now stop these negative practices? That will improve the national development. Remember, if these traditional leaders identifies them and we charge them, they take ownership, and we give ourselves 8 years, 10 years, we will change our country. We will change our country. So like General said, everything is about leadership, driving. You must have a dream and a vision that will call for change. That will call for change. You know, you go to the remotest part of our society, there are institutions, you will have hospitals. There are sometimes you have hospitals, you may have schools there. In some places at the remotest part, you may not have even hospital. You may not even have a school. But there are 2 major institutions that you can have. You will definitely find in the remotest part of any village. You find a traditional leader and you find a religious leader. Unfortunately, in our governance structure, we build our governance on 2 strands, on the public sector and the private sector. 2 sectors are missing: the traditional sector and the religious sector. That is missing in our governance structure, because the traditional sector and the religious sector will help to bring attitudinal transformation that will change the direction. So you can come up with a great policy from parliament, great policy and laws from parliament, but if the attitude is wrong, it will be difficult to achieve them. So the next area can be infrastructure development in the vision plan, where we want to have, what kind of structures do we want to have? The next should be security. How do we need to retool and retrain our police officers to the extent that when you call for any police, you call your 911, you call the police within a matter of 10 minutes. Maximum 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, the police must be able to respond to your call. And that any average police officer we see should be what I describe them as being a mini police station. The police officer must be well equipped with his short pistol, with his handcuff, any equipment he needs to operate. Most of it, we find our police officers, they stop you on the road, and even if you decide not to stop, there's nothing he can do about it. He doesn't have anything to arrest you. But we should be able to equip them, because crime has become sophisticated. Therefore, they need to be prepared. The 8th is enforcement of law and order. We live in a very indisciplined society. And then the ninth one is technology. And the 10th is leadership development. If we don't have a national vision that should be owned by all, after this 17th demonic IMF, the 18th will be waiting for us. And if we want to move our country forward, we need a dream and a vision that will take us to the next level and become better. I thank you for this moment. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much.
All right, welcome back. I'm sure you're enjoying these thought-provoking presentations. And for us not to distort the flow, there are so many messages that have come in, comments that have come in, which we'll go through. But as I indicated, for us not to distort it, I want us to quickly listen to the next presenter in the person of Madam Rodalyn Ayana. She is also a board member of Crusaders Against Corruption. Just stay tuned. Listen to her.
Minutes. It seems independence, this is the 67th year, and we've been talking about the same thing, and nothing seems to change. I am not older than 67, but Independence and I share almost the same because I'm 66. So I have seen a bit of Ghana as it was and as it is now. I grew up in a Ghana where the drains were clean. I grew up in a Ghana where the buses were on time, where I could stand in front of 37 bus stop and wait for bus 21 to come from Medina to take me to Opera Square. And I would get to Opera Square, and either I'm going southbound, westbound, northbound, or eastbound. This is Ghana. I'm not talking about Aburuchiri. And you would get a bus to take you to your destination. You would enter a clean bus where there will be a conductor who will give you a ticket, and you will pay. This was Ghana. I lived in a Ghana where I would walk out of my house and post my letter in a post box. This was Ghana. I lived in a Ghana where kinky was sold for tro ekpenge. And that's how come we have the trotro. So I lived in a Ghana where traffic was minimal and where I can say that as a child, you knew that you would eat 3 square meals a day and even have pocket money. And I'm not saying it for the privileged, but that will be given to you to buy something. That was the Ghana. So when I stand now as an adult and I look at the younger people, the younger generation, and I ask myself, being born into a country like we have today, choked gutters, traffic, poverty staring at us, no water, sanitation problems, how does it make any adult who has lived through the times that I have lived and who is ruling today feel? You had the best of times, and everything else that is around this country is going down. How does it make our leaders to feel? When Bishop Mensah was talking, he was talking about how to rejuvenate the country. Maybe we can do a whole lot of things. Let me tell you, we have been there. Northern region had rice mills, groundnut mills, cotton ginneries, before the tomato factory. Each region to what it was capable of doing. That was the first republic that we had in this country. He was a Ghanaian like everybody else, and all of us who have come into leadership. How come he had that vision to say that I will build factories? I will create an airline that will take Ghanaians from one place to the other. We don't have to go and be begging for people, for British Airways to come and give us chartered aircrafts. We had dignity flying in our own aircrafts. He thought of cocoa, and we had Black Star Line for the young people. I'm giving you the history of this country as it was. It was like the future that we should be looking for. A shipping line that was for Ghanaians. That was to carry our produce, our exports, without it going to rot at the ports. So we had Black Star Line, captained by Ghanaians. Our Ghana Airways was being flown by Ghanaians, and you should have seen the air hostesses. The world looked at us with pride and awe. How could a black African country be able to do this for itself? But we did it, and we did it as Ghanaians, not as anybody. So it goes to show that it is not something we cannot do. We are very capable of doing it, if only we put our minds to it. It is not today where you look around, and I get so saddened that we could have a situation to call human meal, that's kaya yo, a profession. to the extent of building them a hostel. Come on. When the colonialists were here, they left the north as a place to get all the workers and whatnot. So we didn't get education early. We struggled through the education. But thank God, we were resilient enough to take our future in our hands and educate ourselves wherever we found ourselves. And to think that today, something that we have fought for will come back and haunt us, not by our own making, but a government that we all queue up in the morning to vote for. To think that human muling, to be a human mule, means that you've got a profession, it's a job. To kaya you today in Ghana is a job, to the extent that we will give them a hostel. When you look at our educational system, you ask yourself, I mean, what are they teaching the children these days? Because years ago, at least, when you looked in the rural areas, they spoke English. They knew mathematics, arithmetic. It was mental. No calculator. But when they say 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus, you must know it. And spelling bee, you will know it. From Shokoloko Bangoshi to Mississippi, you must know it. And there was nothing like technology. But we still learnt. The best doctors that we have went to Kimbu and all the other local schools. They went to local authority primary and middle schools. The best lawyers we have passed through those doors. It wasn't international school. But they made it and made it to the universities. They made it to the teacher training colleges. They made it to the nursing training colleges. And those are very excellent people we made. But today, with all the facilities that we say we have, what do we get? Half-baked doctors and nurses. Because of what? Politics. So I stand here asking myself the question again. Did we really have independence? Was it a rescue or a disaster? For me, it was a rescue. In the sense that coming from where we were, if we had not been rescued, like how people thought that we should have left the independence to go on later, we could have ended up like South Africa. Is that what we want? I don't think that that was what we wanted. It is us who have made this country the way it is that makes us think that we should have left the independence for further years. It's because we didn't believe in ourselves. And you know, looking back now, I can see that if we had left the independence to go further down the line, it would have been exactly what we are seeing today. Exactly what we are seeing today. A class society would have been built for them and us. Because in a country where at the moment we are standing and everything is who you know, not what you know, there's definitely something wrong with us. So, what is it with the independence? How have we used that independence that we have gotten? When Kwame Nkrumah said we had gotten political independence, and that the next step was the economic independence, what he meant was that it was time for the industrialization. And he started it. Because when you have factories, almost 650 of them, then you know that the person is doing the right thing. And it's just not factories by name. Factories that produce nails, factories that produce tires, car tires, from ceramics to glass to God knows what, from our soaps and everything. And just think about it. Coming from independence, coming from the colonial rule, imperialism doesn't want for anybody to be any better, especially when you're a black man. But we crossed that line. We were doing things for ourselves. Thank God, our children were not born to wear second-hand clothing. Today, after independence, 67 years after independence, some children are already born wearing second-hand clothes. And we are proud of that as a country. So we ride our, big cars and live in our big houses, and we think that's the end of it because we have gotten it. How about them? Those who queue up to vote for us. How about them? So when we are sick, we will take our cars and our things right to the airport, and then out we go for medical treatment. How about them? Those who voted for us. We are in the majority. Those who are going out there are in the minority. Why should that be the case? For the minority to always have it over us and always lord it over us. That's not fair, is it? But who is to blame? It's us. We are not angry enough. We are not. We accept mediocrity. We applaud corrupt officials. We give them the best seats. We give them the best accolades. Yes, us. And at the end of the day, it's the same us who will now get out and say, people are corrupt. If you know you have the right qualifications, go and see the person and insist on your right to be given a job. But in a situation where you have to give a bribe, or you are willing, sometimes they don't even ask for the bribe. You give the bribe. You either give the bribe or you send somebody to go and talk to the person. Oh, wait, you'll come out, sorry. So go and see this person because we share in the same church. All those things are things that we have created. And now the monster is bigger than we can hold. So we don't know what to do with it. So 67 years after independence, we are as poor as church rats. This is the country that produces gold. Yet there are some children who would live their whole lives. In fact, some Ghanaians who live their whole lives and never own one gold trinket. Not an earring, not a cuffling, not a chain. That you will go and sit somewhere and say, oh, my country produces gold. My country used to be called Gold Coast. But in your things, you don't have one earring that is gold. You don't. And you sit and say, I'm the second what? My country is the best cocoa producer. We are this. Yet your child has never tasted chocolate. You go to the rural areas where they even grow the cocoa. They've never seen chocolate. They don't know what Milo looks like. But at the end of the day, we still line up, queue up, whether it's sun or rain. We don't ask questions. We go and vote. For the same thieves to come again and we start complaining. It's time to wake up. It's time to ask questions. We should ask our leaders questions. We should hold them accountable and make them aware that what they're doing is wrong. But when we all sit, that's the thing with Ghanaians. We will all talk and we'll all complain and we will all do all the things that we want to do. You tell Ghanaians that tomorrow or next week, Saturday, let's all meet at Obra Sports and show our displeasure to any particular government that what is happening, we don't want it. And only 10 people will come. But we will sit behind the kiosk and everywhere and be saying, oh, they should go. Who should go? We are all in it. So when the call comes, everybody has to go. Whose child should go? These are the things. We don't want to fight for our rights. We want other people to fight for their rights. So I'm going to a radio station and somebody says, Auntie Rhoda, what can say? You know it's wrong. So for me, our independence was a necessity. It was a rescue. It was something that we all should be happy with. The only thing that is left now is for us to look for good leaders, patriotic, nationalistic leaders who will see us to the next generation of young people who would probably take off from there. There is nothing wrong with this country. This country is got everything. The resources. We are even still discovering more resources. We have a human resource that is just incredible. We have brilliant Ghanaians. We have the youth that are so vibrant, so creative. So there is nothing that should stop us. The only thing that is stopping us is the greedy leaders, selfish, wicked leaders that we have, that think that everything good must stop at their doorsteps instead of the rest of us. So if you and I are ready to battle, let's start holding them accountable. When the clarion call comes out that you should come out, please do. Don't leave it for one person. Like someone said, even if one person has to die for us to make a mark, let us do it. That's the way it is. No one has ever been given anything on a silver platter. People died for us to get independence. And therefore, if it will take another death for a second independence, which is the economic one, let's do it. Let's do it. I am sure that people will be wondering, so what next can we do? At the moment, the country is sitting on tenterhooks. We've sold everything. Bishop was talking about doing all those wonderful things, agriculture and all those things. But where's the land? They've sold all the lands. Chinese, if you go to the north, the Chinese have acquired all the lands. You go everywhere else, Chinese expatriates have acquired all the lands. There's no land. And the little that is left around us, we're using for concrete works. Accra Plains, which was used for food, production of foods, now it's all concrete, real estate. And we are still doing it without thinking. And we talk of floods in our country when everywhere is concrete. Where do you expect the water to flow to? So let us begin to interrogate some of these issues and policies that are being given by our leaders. It's not right to just say I'm an MPP or I'm an NDC or I'm a CPP and therefore whether they're doing it well or not, I'll vote for them. No, that shouldn't be the case. That shouldn't be the case. We should be looking for that group that is going to be looking after our welfare. That group that is going to say, I am for Ghana and nothing else. So I hope that, I think that the first speakers have done justice to whatever is supposed to be said. So the only thing I can add is that we all try in our little corners to love Ghana a little bit more. Let's always have Ghana at heart. That's the only country that we have, and it's a beautiful country. There's nowhere else like this place called Ghana. Believe you me. Thank you very much.
What else can I say? I believe we've all gotten that which we need to get. There are 2 more speakers left, but we just realized that we've run out of time. Not to talk of the number of messages that have come in, comments, interesting ones that have come in. Unfortunately, if we begin or attempt to go into it, I'm sure we'll need to tell the producers to give us an additional 30 minutes or so. And so there's going to be a continuation of this in due course, where we'll listen to the other speakers that have come. What is important so far from all that we've learned or we've listened to is that Ghana has everything that is needed. The unfortunate thing that is lacking is leadership. Not just leadership, but patriotic, committed, good leader. It's what Ghana is lacking. I'm sure as we prepare towards the 2024 general elections in December 7th, we will, through politics and beyond, be preparing our minds in identifying the kind of leaders that we need for Ghana to move from where it is now to where all of us will be so proud of and say that indeed we are proud Ghanaians. So soon or too soon, this is where time will allow us. And as I indicated, we're going to have another episode, continuation of this. But next week, we are going to have another interesting episode as we've always been having. And I'll need you to stay tuned. Next week, we'll go a bit deeper into all that we've discussed, still in preparing for the 2024 general election. So we meet again next week. My name is Emmanuel Wilson Jr., your host. And all I can say is that stay tuned and continue listening and watching Politics and Beyond, because that is your transformative program. This coming Wednesday, exactly at 11 a.m., there's going to be a repetition of this particular episode. Stay tuned on TV XYZ. See you next week. And all I can say is good night.